Hey everyone, it's Stephanie here, and today I have a video to share this card that I created as part of the Pretty Pink Posh second birthday celebration. We are all celebrating for a couple of days with some of the Pretty Pink Posh new products that were just released, as well as some of the older stuff. So for my card, I'm going to be using the Storybook 3 die that I showed there, and I'm also going to be using the Holiday Pals stamp set and the Rainy Days stamp set. And I love the little bird image in the Holiday Pal stamp set, so you can definitely use this all year round. It doesn't have to be only used for holiday card making. So I wanted to create a little scene here. It's going to be a shaker card when I'm done. So what I did is I first cut out the Storybook 3 window there, and I laid it over top of a second piece of white cardstock, and that's just so I can kind of figure out where I want my images in the little scene that I'm going to be creating, since most of the scene is going to be inside that window underneath the shaker. So what I did is I just positioned it there, I stamped the umbrella, and I stamped the little bird. I just kind of laid the open window over top, and then when I figured out where I wanted the stamping, I just moved it to the side. And now I'm just using a black marker to go ahead and draw in the arm on the umbrella. There is stamps to do this, but I wanted to just draw it in, so I'm just going ahead and doing that. And the marker I'm using is Copic friendly, so it's not going to cause anything to bleed when I do any of the coloring. So now that I have that part stamped and ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and stamp a second umbrella piece, and this is going to be used once I have the shaker completely assembled. And I also stamped some cloud images from that Rainy Day stamp set. So now I'm taking some Copic markers and I'm just going to quickly go through here and color in my images. I don't know, I kind of lost a piece of video or something because I did color in both of the umbrella pieces, but for some reason I don't have that in the video. I must have lost the clip, or I'm not really sure what happened, but it's pretty much the same idea as what I'm doing here. I just picked my lightest, and I believe I used 3 colors of Copic marker here on the bird. I'm using some aquas for his main body part, and then I'm also using some greens for the top of his head and his little tummy area. And I just kind of start with my lightest color, use a medium color and also a dark color, and just kind of go back and forth until I get them blended how I want them. It's not too in-depth, it's just pretty basic shading and coloring. They blend really well together, so they really do a lot of the work for you, I find. So they're a really great coloring medium if you like to have shading, just to kind of make your images look a little bit more dimensional. So then once I had the bird colored, I went ahead and did the umbrellas, but like I said, I don't know where that went, so they're already colored. And then I went ahead and stamped and adhered some masks over the bird and the umbrella. So I don't know if you can tell there, but there's masking paper over both of those images. And that's just because I'm going to be doing some inking on the background, and I don't want to get the ink on the bird and the umbrella. So to start off, I'm first going to stamp the rain. This is a stamp set from the same Rainy Day stamp set from where the umbrella is from. And I'm just using some light ink. This is Snow Cone ink from My Favorite Things. And I'm just going ahead and completely stamping this all around the area where the bird and the umbrella is. And I'm going to kind of make sure to not put any rain in the top right corner. And that's just because I'm going to be adding some yellow ink up there to make it look like the sun is coming out. And I didn't want any ink in the area where the yellow is going to be. So I'm just going to leave that blank for now. So I just kind of keep putting the window over top just to kind of make sure everything is fully inked up and stamped inside the area that you're going to see. And then I'm going to go ahead now and do the inking with the yellow. So I'm just using a little piece of masking paper here, and that's just because when I adhere the top piece onto the shaker card, there's going to be a white border all around it that's actually this piece here of cardstock. So I don't want the ink that I'm adding to this image to kind of go out on the edges. I want that to remain completely white so that it's a completely white border when I assemble it. So having the masking paper kind of there on the outside is just preventing me from getting ink on any of the areas on the outside of this little cardstock panel here. So now the yellow's done, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I have some Tumble Glass Distress ink, and I'm just using an ink blending tool and adding this all around the rest of the image area. I'm not putting this on too heavy. I want the rain to kind of really stand out, and I didn't want it to be super blue, so I'm just kind of lightly adding this blue color, and then I'm kind of blending it into the yellow so that it kind of transitions nicely and doesn't have a really harsh line from the yellow to the blue area of the rainy sky. So now I'm just going to go ahead and take the masks off. I'm all done my inking. So you can see there now that's how I colored the umbrella. I just used some basic primary colors and went ahead and colored each of the umbrella pieces in. And I also stamped a little cloud on the bottom area of the bird. So when I had the mask on, I went ahead and stamped that cloud image, and that just made it look like the cloud was behind the bird. And that's just because we're going to go ahead and put a bunch of clouds at the bottom, and I just wanted it to look a little more realistic and like the bird was sitting inside the cloud. So I felt like it looked better if I had a cloud that looked like it was behind him. So I just put my piece back on. I just kind of took this back off and on just to kind of really make sure everything was where I wanted it. And I positioned it here to go ahead and put the sentiment on. So I just wanted to make sure everything fit nicely in that little top window. So I just laid it on top and then just stamped the sentiment directly through it, and that worked out perfectly. So now I'm just positioning the clouds into the scene and adding them onto the card. So you can see I took that one cloud there and cut the side of it off, and that was just for the same reason as before. I just don't want anything to be peeking out behind the frame when I add it on, so that I keep the outside area completely white. So I'm just kind of positioning them how I want them so that they all kind of look like they're bunched together. And I just keep adding the frame piece on top to make sure everything fits inside and that it looks right in the bottom window. And then once I'm happy with it, I just use regular adhesive and completely adhere those to the background piece. I do have another cloud that I'm going to be adding, but I'm going to put that on the top piece once I have assembled the shaker card. So I'm not going to use that quite yet. So now that I have that all done, it's time to actually make the shaker window. So I'm going to be using a piece of acetate here. This is Judikin's acetate pieces. They come in, I think, packages of 20, and I really like them because they're already the perfect size for a card front. So you usually just have to cut them down a tiny bit, and they're a really nice thickness, so I really like using them to create shaker cards. I've used them for quite a while, and they work really well. So I just cut this piece here down to fit on the frame here, and now you can see I completely adhered it to the back area. And I just used regular adhesive. As long as it's a nice strong adhesive, it's going to hold that acetate on no problem. And now I need to actually turn it into the shaker card. So I'm just using some foam adhesive, and I'm going completely around that window area with the foam adhesive. You can do as many layers as you want. The more layers you do, the thicker your shaker card's going to be. I decided to do 2 layers here because I knew I wanted to add a bunch of sequins inside of this, so I really wanted a nice open area for them to move around. So I find that 2 layers is the perfect amount to have a really nice shaker card. So I like to take my powder tool on the inside of the foam adhesive, as you can see there, and that just helps to take some of the stick off of the inside of the foam adhesive, and it just helps to prevent the sequins from sticking all to the sides of the shaker card. So I like to do that. It just really helps to make those sequins move around inside the shaker. And then I also added a little bit of sparkle to the bird and the umbrella with my Clear Income Stella. You just want to make sure that anything you want to do on this bottom scene, you do while you still have it not a shaker card. Because once you add everything in like you see I'm doing here and put that shaker piece on top, you can't access the inside area any longer to do any kind of edits or adjustments to your images. So you just want to make sure you do anything that you want to do ahead of time. So because I have to position this window over the scene and kind of make sure everything lines up properly so that the sentiment is where it's supposed to be and the bird and the umbrella are where they're supposed to be, rather than flip it upside down and fill it in with the sequins and stuff, I laid everything on top of the scene and kind of just kept it to the middle, and then I laid the window over top, and this just allowed me to completely line everything up and make sure everything was straight. Now, once I had the shaker fully assembled, I kind of realized that I put a little bit too many sequins inside of the shaker area. It still looks fine and it's a lot of fun. It shakes around really well. But when the card is upright, it's really hard to see the clouds and stuff in the bottom just because there's so many sequins, they kind of sit completely over top of all the clouds that I had put in there. So, like I said, it's still fine. I still like how it turned out. But just keep in mind if you have a shaker like this where there's kind of a scene inside of the shaker area, to maybe limit the sequence a little bit just so that you don't fully overpower the scene that you've created. So once I had the shaker assembled, I just went ahead and added the umbrella piece to the top as well as the last cloud, and then add a little bit of glitter to both of those pieces. And that completes the card. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.